Welcome to the Chamber Spotlight, a talk show podcast brought to you by the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce in association with the local scene. We'll be recording on a regular basis and we'll cover many topics that span local businesses, local elections, local town governance, and a citizens' academy. I'm your host, Fraser Townley, and today is November the 3rd. Can you believe that, ladies? November the 3rd already. We're sitting down with Lisa Cullity and Melissa Killham, Board of Health, and we'll be chatting to... Hi, ladies.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
So we'll have a conversation. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon and good evening.
Oh, no, it was you.
It was me, yeah. See,
The pair of you are hiding behind your microphones. I can't see whose mouth's moving. I will get used to your voices. So before we tackle our podcast today, we're going to go to the town hall where we've recorded Andrea Cesarini with the town news. So over to Andrea. Hi, so it is November 3rd, and I'm here with Andrea Cesarini at the town hall with some town news. Hi, Andrea.
Hello, good afternoon. So road construction continues around town. So please, mainly Center Street is the construction still going on. Please avoid this area from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Traffic is backing up all down Center Street. In public meetings, our Historic Commission will be meeting tonight, Monday, November 3rd. And on their agenda is a possible vote for a demolition application for 7 Mattakesha Street, which is the old Shepherd's Funeral Home. Our Board of Assessors and Recycling Committee will be meeting this Wednesday, November 5th. Our School Committee will be meeting Thursday, November 6th. And our Finance Advisory Committee will be meeting Monday, November 10th. And they are on their agenda is to discuss the fiscal year 26 quarter one update from the town manager. And I just want to remind everybody that a majority of these meetings are broadcast on the local scene, and they can actually be rewatched or, if you aren't able to watch the meeting or attend the meeting, and that's at thelocalscene.media/Pembroke/. So if you ever want to rewatch a meeting or if you missed a meeting and you need to catch it, you can always catch it on the local scene.
I think also the YouTube channel is Pembroke Meetings LS, or one word.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. In the local scene, if you go to their media page for Pembroke, it will connect to the YouTube page with the most latest and current meetings.
And let me just ask you, so the public meetings, they're all recorded. Mm-hmm. Is that without exception?
Not all of them. I believe our assessors, I don't think the Board of Assessors record their meetings, but every single board and committee has to make minutes of their meetings. So if a board doesn't film their meeting, they will have to make minutes of them. So if you have to catch up the next meeting, usually is when they vote on those minutes. So that's where you can also get an update on what the occurrence of the meeting.
Got it. Is the Historic Commission being...
That will be, yep. And that will be, it's broadcast live. They also stream it live on their YouTube. And that will also be able to be archived and rewatched.
Given the listeners won't hear this until Tuesday.
Right.
They can go to the local scene and they can watch that meeting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I included that. I thought that was interesting that they had the possible vote for demolition application for Shepherd's Funeral Home. So I know that's been
that's kind of
a piqued interest. Yeah, a piqued interest and to revitalize the center of town. That's the first step to that project for the housing that's going to go in there. So some miscellaneous news. There is no election scheduled in November. I just want to remind some voters. We've gotten a lot of calls. Some people were confused because other municipalities and cities hold their local elections in November. Pembroke does ours in May. So every May is when we come and vote for our local offices. Our next scheduled election is Saturday, May 16th, 2026, which is a local election. And just to remind, while we're on the vein of elections, if anybody would like to vote by mail in 2026, they need to apply in 2026. So we need a paper or a virtual application every calendar year. Those applications are available in person in the clerk's office or online on the clerk's website.
What's the earliest date?
January 1st. You can, January 1st. We do have a list of people that are on my list. I mail them out applications so that they can return them. If you would like to get on that list, just call the office at 781-293-7211. We'd be happy to put you on that list. We have 3 elections scheduled next year. The Firehouse Pantry, their annual craft fair, will be this Saturday, November 8th from 10 to 3 at the community center. This is their largest fundraiser event. It's the only food bank in town. And they also have a lot of local vendors. They have food trucks coming this year, 2 food trucks. We'd also like to highlight some of the drop-off locations around town for the Firehouse Pantry. So the Pembroke Public Library, the Pembroke Town Clerk's Office, North Pembroke Stop and Shop, and Hannon Murphy Insurance are all accepting donations for the Firehouse Pantry. The pantry is open from Thursdays, 11 to 5, and they're located at 32 School Street.
That's such an important, with food insecurity right now and the delay or the potential loss of SNAP benefits, I think the job the Firehouse Pantry do for people in need is terrific.
Yeah, and I know that we got a number of calls last week, people inquiring about donations. I know Peg Struzik had posted on their Facebook. So many people reached out, donated, whether it be food or cash payments. Every little bit helps. Everything goes to battling food insecurity in Pembroke, and right now that's it's a greater need than we've seen in previous years. So I know I was. There was so many calls last week because we are the phone line for the food pantry. They don't have a direct line. So when you Google Firehouse Pantry, it's the town clerk's office number that you get. That's because Peg Struzik was the beloved previous town clerk. She is still a director of the food pantry. So me and Zoe, the assistant town clerk, we try to answer as many questions as we can or provide Peg's number if we can.
Well, I think it's also worth noting for the listeners, those particularly who want to donate, the Boy Scouts, they are doing, it's not just boys, it's girls as well.
Yeah, Troop 105.
Troop 105. They are doing a
Scouting for Food, I think it's what it's called.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And they're sending out the flyers this weekend.
Yep.
And then they're picking up the food next weekend.
Yes, yeah. And they donate tons, quite literally tons of food every year. I have a feeling
6,000 pounds.
Yeah.
3 tons.
Yeah.
Of food.
So I think, and I have a feeling this year will be, a very active year for them. Everyone is being, there's just so much generosity in this town. I've seen it time and time again working with Peg for as long as I did. And so that's one thing that always makes me so proud of Pembroke. We really do come together when it's needed.
Absolutely.
Property tax exemption applications are still being accepted. For additional information on property tax exemptions, please contact our assessor's office at 781-293-2393. And second quarter property taxes, they are due today, Monday, November 3rd. And our water bills have just been mailed to all the households. Payments are due Wednesday, December 3rd at 4:30 p.m. Any payments made after their due dates are subject to late fees. Please contact our collector's office at 781-293-2671 with any questions regarding your municipal bills. And just a reminder, the town buildings and schools will be closed next Tuesday, November 11th, in observation of Veterans Day.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the podcast, ladies. Let's start with you, Lisa.
Certainly.
We're here. I've got the headline. The title of this podcast is The Board of Health. That's what we are? Who do you work for?
So there's an interesting background to the Board of Health. And if you go back and look through the Commonwealth and Mass General laws and how boards of health came to exist, it's actually very interesting. Long story short is...
No, give us the long story.
We don't. No, we do not have time for all that.
She has so much information.
Well,
Good.
I've been doing this far too long is the first mistake. But the second part of that is the intent by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when creating the autonomy that boards of health operate under was to create a system that would be insulated to a degree from political influence, meaning that health is supposed to be about health and well-being, codes, safety, whether it be food code or home sanitation or any of those other kinds of things. And it's supposed to be, everything is politically influenced by government, but to be insulated from being used as a tool. It's supposed to be about protecting public health, safety, environmental health, situational health. And by and large, it's worked over the years. So it's very interesting if anyone was ever bored and really wanted to have a good time. If you check out the laws that set up the governance and how boards of health exist and the laws they operate under, it's very fascinating.
Mm. So you're not elected?
I am not. The Board of Health it is elected, and it's elected by statute, and it's elected in all communities. For those that know me, again, I've been involved in this way too long. I was a sitting member of the board for 13 years. I did step down, and I did then apply for the town position some months later when it became available.
Very good. Now, Melissa, you are elected.
I am. I'm the newest member of the Board of Health.
Mm-hmm.
I was elected in May.
Mm-hmm. I know. I moderated your candidate for
You did. And I actually like the fact that we have a health agent that has all the history and the knowledge as a new person coming on the board. I've learned a lot from Lisa and other members of the board and how things have actually functioned because, like you say, we're trying to unmask what's happening in Pembroke here with this podcast. And it's great to see the workings behind and the people that do the heavy lifting and the work, such as Lisa.
Mm-hmm. You're a health professional, though. Is that correct?
I am. I'm a registered nurse.
Okay.
I'm going on 30 years of being a registered nurse. And that's actually why I would never had any plans of doing anything political. But I saw that the skill set that I learned, skills that I've learned from being a nurse would feed really well into being a member of the Board of Health. Using evidence-based practice, listening to professionals, having them come tell us what they feel is the best thing for the town and weighing that information. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's worked out pretty well so far.
Lisa, what's
Yes.
your opinion? Has it worked out well?
For the most part, absolutely. I think that the idea is to give towns some autonomy from the state. There is a set of codes that we cannot vary from, that the state sets up as basic sanitation codes. But then there's what we call local upgrade regulations. And I think that's where people in the community are in a position to put in place additional controls and guidance if necessary to keep a community safe. I'll give an example. What makes Pembroke unique? Pembroke has an awful lot of surface water, as most people are aware, and there's a lot of water in the town. There's also 7 communities that depend on us for drinking water that is taken out of the town of Pembroke from different aquifers to provide drinking water. So some of the regulations that are enhanced, if we want to call that, or upgraded from the state basic regulations would be septic and sanitary regulations, and that is to keep those water supplies as clean as possible. And we have definitely seen an upward trend, a positive trend in the overall water quality in our surface water bodies that is monitored annually by testing, as well as tested by Abington-Rockland Joint Waterworks, which is drawing from Big Sandy Pond.
Yeah. So that's a good question. I always believed Pembroke took their water from the aquifer and the water they passed on to Brockton. They're not selling it to Brockton, are they?
No, it
it's
was a
just-
1995 state statute in which the governance took Silver Lake from Pembroke, Halifax, and...
But it's
Berkeley,
surface
Hampton.
water. We're passing on the surface water to other towns.
Okay, now you're making me get super geeky here, so...
I love geeky. I love it.
Yeah.
I was a geology major in college with a concentration in hydrogeology.
Oh.
And what people don't understand about the we'll call it soils, the earthen makeup of southeast Massachusetts is it's by and large formed and constructed by glacial outwash, meaning the last time that we had a geological and earth change around here was 20,000 some odd years ago when the last glacier retreated. All of Cape Cod, for those that aren't familiar, is that arm is created by a terminal moraine of a glacier. So what does that all mean? It means think of every glacier as a giant bulldozer. And basically a giant bulldozer pushed forward, created southeastern Massachusetts and Cape Cod, and then just backed away and left that ridge of dirt. So most of the soil matrix in our areas is a heavily worked, heavily deconstructed soil matrix. And most of the time in Pembroke, it is going to be a sand matrix, which means water moves through it super easily. I want you to think if you had a glass filled with sand and you poured water into it, how fast would that water, you could literally in that see-through glass, see that water immediately hitting the bottom. So on one hand, you're right. We do draw from the aquifer down below, but I want you to think of all those surface bodies of water having nothing but sand between them and that aquifer down below. So basically what you put in the sand in the aquifer up above, guess where it ends up? In the aquifer down below.
I still think sand-filtered water is better than surface water.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Surface water absolutely has to be treated more. You're going to see a lot more nitrates, E. coli, and heavy iron in surface water, but that doesn't mean it's absent from the water column down below.
Mm-hmm. And nitrates, the source of nitrates are?
Mostly deconstructed organics. That can be from human waste. That can be
I was going to say,
from...
you're being very polite.
I am being very polite. But it's not just, everyone assumes it's just human waste. No, that's a large contributor. But keep in mind, all of your decomposing organics, your leaves, your grass. This is why it makes me crazy when people rake and blow leaves into the ponds. That's really not good for them.
Oh, they do that?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
You really shouldn't do that. That's really, if it may, and then the other thing is
public message then.
Yeah,
Let's have a
public message.
Stop doing it.
So public message is, if you want to have clean, good water, do not rake your yard waste into the ponds. Do not put your grass clippings there. You can take them to the recycling center every Saturday for free. Or better yet, compost them in your own yard. Stop buying fertilizer and compost at the store. Create your own compost pile, turn it over, and by next year you'll have all the rich loam that you could possibly want to feed your own grass or garden. On top of that, don't feed the wildlife, any kind of wildlife, but particularly the waterfowl. Not only does that make the water dirtier, it's terrible for the waterfowl. There's very few things we can give them. Certainly some vegetables and fruits aren't as terrible as other things. But when you feed waterfowl, they stop eating the water plants in the water.
Which we need them to do.
Exactly. They're the pond's filters. And you're literally saying, oh, no, don't go graze on all those water lilies and things like that. No, here, eat this instead. And the worst thing you can give them is Wonder Bread. Google it online. But there's
it's the worst thing you can give us.
It is the worst thing you can give us, especially today with all the chemicals and the additional ingredients. You're not kidding.
So this has been fantastic. Already, we've gone way off on a tangent. So I'll keep it on that tangent and share with you how I know about the nitrates. So I was in China one time. I was guest of honor at a banquet, and I was presented with 1,000-year-old eggs. Now, I've seen 1,000-year-old eggs on shows like The Fear Factor, and people will not eat them. They are black. They are slightly mushy. They look awful, but it's a boiled egg, cut in half, but everything about it is black with some green and blue tones to it. And I was presented with 1,000-year-old eggs. And I'm looking at everybody and, oh, God, I've got to eat these. So I did. And I popped it in my mouth, and it tasted like a boiled egg. Slightly stronger than normal, but it tasted fine. It was getting over the visual of this thing. Oh, give me another. So I'm reaching out and I'm eating more of these black 1,000-year-old eggs. And I leaned across to my host and I said, so they're obviously not 1,000 years old, but what makes them black? And he said, oh, it's the nitrates. And at the time, I had no idea what he was talking about. I said, what's the source of the nitrates? He said, well, it used to be horse urine, but I don't know what they use today.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish I should have asked that question just before I took my second dose of egg.
Well, it would have been impolite not to.
Of course.
If we could have 2 or 3 podcasts on all the nonsense food I eat, and it drives my wife crazy because I'll sniff and I'll lick test everything she cooks. And she said, I've seen you put crap in your mouth. But anyway, moving on back to, so you clearly, Lisa, have an interest in all things or more things than just the Board of Health, or does the Board of Health involve all of what you've just been talking about?
All of that and then some.
Yeah.
So everyone thinks Board of Health and they immediately go to the medical sciences, and there's nothing wrong with the medical sciences. They're very important. They keep us alive. They give us advice and information to draw and make our conclusions on regarding our personal health. Excellent thing. But people often forget the environmental health, and that is all under the purview of the Board of Health. And then you have environmental health in our interior environmental health, which includes all of our restaurant codes, all of our what we call home sanitation codes. And if you go flip back to the environmental health and you stop talking about the drinking water in the ponds, you then have to consider about human effluent and how you handle human effluent in a way that's safe, that it doesn't contaminate our environment. Because everyone, I think, knows the stories of the medieval ages and when human waste was just tossed out in the street and everything, and just how much disease that would bring into our environment, spread from person to person. Never mind the unpleasantness of it beyond that. It was truly a measure of disease control to handle waste appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
unlike France, where they just grease the fields.
Yeah, that's not the safest thing. You need to avoid those areas.
That's actually why. So salad dressing, as we know it here, it's ranch and it's Thousand Islands and stuff like that. But in European countries, it's vinaigrette, and it's vinaigrette to kill the bacteria. So
on the vegetables. that you're eating.
Yes, that you're eating.
Especially your leafy greens. Yeah.
Your leafy greens are greased
Yes.
by muck spreaders.
With
And the muck comes
when he
from
says
somewhere.
grease, he doesn't mean grease. He means effluent. He means
Yes.
animal waste.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. And so I remember when we lived there, my wife was pregnant, and she said she was warned, don't ever eat the greens unless you know for certain they've been cleaned properly and that you have plenty of salad dressing. And my wife said, well, what if you can't get hold of salad dressing or you like salad dressing? Their recommendation, clean your salads with bleach. That was the French response, the doctor's response. Mm-hmm. So now we're talking to the Board of Health. What do you think of that?
Yeah. I'll stick with vinegar.
So I've heard a lot of these different things. And of course, vinegar is a fantastic sanitizing agent, has been used throughout the centuries. There's an irony in that if you, so I'm getting off on a tangent again, but
please do.
If you do long distance hiking, everyone's heard the stories about drinking from a contaminated water supply, or you're in a sudden survival situation. One of the things you can do, you want to keep the parts very low, less than 1% of your total consuming volume of water, but you can in fact use bleach into a container of water and shake it up. And yes, this will have long-term effects on your organs. No, you don't want to go bleaching your water and drinking it, but you can actually add bleach to your water to kill the microbes so that you do not get any of the, we'll call it internal intestinal distress that might otherwise cause you to become dehydrated. So it can be used. It will, in fact, kill the bacteria. Not my first choice, but if I was in a survival situation, would I absolutely add that dash of bleach to otherwise surface water to drink and not dehydrate? Absolutely. And it would work. Very good. Recommendations from the Board of Health there. Drink bleach. No, that is not what I said. I understand, and I'm sure the listeners do too. I hope so. So, Melissa, you were about to say something.
No, I just, as Lisa was saying about the importance of environmental safety and health, that even though in the medical sciences people think, like she said, health and wellness is based on all the things we can do with science, but if you look at, the hierarchy of needs, the first thing you have to have is a healthy environment.
Hierarchy of needs. I love it. We're getting some good information here today.
But you have to have a healthy environment in order to be and so that's why I want to be part of, or chose to be part of the Board of Health, because people can make different choices in how they want to live their life and go towards wellness. But you first have to have the structure of having healthy water, safe sewerage,
safe air. Highest hierarchy of need is
breathing.
Oxygen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Number one.
Absolutely.
Yeah, air quality.
So how big? We're talking about two different teams here: the elected team and the appointed team. Yep. How big is the appointed team?
You're looking at it.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
All of that with one person.
Correct. Well, there is an administrator, but as far as field knowledge and field execution, I am all of those. So, hotel. We don't have any hotels. Restaurant inspections. That's you. All housing. All rental housing. All home housing. I should take a step back. We do have some contractors that work for us that do some of the restaurant inspections. Kathy does a lot of those, and she does a fabulous job. She's been in the industry for a long, long time. And we do have professional nurses that work with us actually administering vaccines. They provide health clinics at our different housing authorities as well as our senior center. So I shouldn't say I do it alone, but as far as full-time, on-call, on-demand, if a restaurant was on fire right now, I would be receiving a phone call. You're the one. I am the one. If someone is in a perilous living situation, I will often get those kinds of calls from the police and fire department. If there is some sort of a natural disaster that could impact public health, I'm going to receive that call. If we have an emergency management response to a threat that is weather-orientated, flooding, freezing, heat, all of that. Matter of fact, we just had a drill last Thursday on that exact topic. If we had some extreme events that could threaten people's lives. So you're working closely with the fire chief and the police chief. Correct. Yep.
So I actually thought Lance Kennedy and the town manager were some of the hardest working people in Pembroke, but I'm just revising that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Absolutely. The table's changing.
No, you know what I think it is it's very easy to look at it like that. And I will tell you, there's a lot of people in this town that work incredibly hard, including our fire chief, our deputy fire chief, our police chief, our deputy police chief. And I'm not discounting any of the fine folks below them, and certainly our town manager. You want me to name underrated employees? Our assistant town manager is wildly underrated for the volume of work she does and the breadth of knowledge she
Sometimes
has.
the only adult in the room at some of the town meetings. I agree with you.
That is entirely possible.
Although you did a good job at the last town meeting.
She did amazing.
I do what I can.
I watched it.
Our school superintendent and our assistant superintendent, the volume of work and the scope of knowledge they have to accomplish all the things. Like everyone thinks, oh, well, you just manage the teachers. No, it's not about just managing the teachers and the school systems. It's about following the funding, getting the funding in, getting it reallocated. They have to know about school nutrition. They have to know about environmental. I will tell you, they know a lot about environmental safety. You'd be very surprised.
Yes.
And so you're working with the superintendent.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, most of the time when I do the sanitation inspections, either the superintendent or the assistant superintendent will walk through with me, and that includes food and then general inspection of safety and conditions at the schools. For example, people heard that there was some mold situations in some of our schools.
They noticed right away, and they were
right on scene, right on site, involved every step of the way. So, on one hand, any of these things I do, it looks like it's me, but it's me with people, and I think that's probably Pembroke's most underrated and undervalued asset is just how well the continuity working between departments does not exist in other communities. I know because I talk to me in other communities. We in Pembroke enjoy an extraordinarily high level of professional staff that work extraordinarily well with each other. I cannot think of a circumstance. I'll give you an example. Got a complaint on one of the schools. At no time does the school committee or the superintendent brush me off, say, no, don't. The first thing they do is say, I will meet you there. Let's open the doors. Let's go find out. Same thing with the fire and the police department. Same thing with our other branches. If we're having some sort of water issue, the first people we're talking to is back and forth with the water superintendent. So that doesn't always happen in all communities. There's a lot of communities that have a lot more, I'll call it division, between
siloed
different
behavior.
Well, that's their choice. Label it what you will. But the transparency between the different arms of our government is, in my opinion, one of our strongest benefits, because everyone says, oh, this and that's happening. No, it's a lot more transparent than people think.
I'm so glad you are here sharing this with the listeners, because and this was the main role of the podcast was to demystify. We've already talked about that. Mm-hmm. But you're opening up, and it's fantastic what I'm hearing. Melissa, can you top any of that?
Not at all. Actually,
how big is your board? How big is the elected board?
There are 3 members. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep,
so I think we've met them all. Adam, Lauren, and yourself.
Yep.
Very good.
That's it. And we do highly rely on the information that Lisa gives us on what's going on in the town. She does every meeting. She does an update on what's happening with the collaboration in other towns, what's happening with West Nile virus and Triple E, what areas she thinks are bylaws maybe we should look at as a Board of Health. She has a lot of insight. She brings that to us, and we decide what to move forward on.
Cool.
And she works very closely, too, I've learned, with the tobacco agent that works with our town and area.
We have a collaborative, multi-town collaborative. So we do have a specialty grant-funded person that helps us do tobacco compliance, which is important if you believe that tobacco should be kept out of the hands of children. That person helps us with that.
Right?
I do.
I do as well.
Yeah. It's interesting because you mentioned bylaws.
Yep.
We had a bylaw meeting, and the 2 of you came, and you were feisty. But I like that. I actually came away from that thinking, I've got to have those 2 on the podcast. I've got to have them on the podcast. And you've actually delivered more than my expectations, so that's fantastic. But we had a bylaw. We were discussing introducing a bylaw that doesn't prevent, start again. It has a full stop behind a year that you can start buying tobacco. So I don't know why I'm waffling. We looked at making anyone who was born after 2000 can no longer buy tobacco. So it didn't mean you were banning tobacco sales. What you were doing is you were aging out tobacco sales. So in 70 years' time or 50 years' time, the people who wanted to smoke were dead or didn't exist. And no one else wanted to smoke because they didn't have access to smoking. We had the conversation. We didn't propose a bylaw. We just had the conversation in the bylaw meeting. Should we be having this discussion? We got approached by pro-tobacco sales, what do you call them?
Lobbyists.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Lobbyists to say, well, why are you doing this? Why? So, well, we're not doing it. And then the anti-smoking lobbyists, they also approached us. So we haven't moved forward with it because we believe the state's going to move forward with something anyway. So there's no point in riling up the town folk.
Very possibly.
If it's going to
that
come
is
in.
in active discussion.
The one
Yeah.
thing, though, is you can do things locally a little bit faster than you can do things
yeah.
at the state level.
Considerably faster.
We could have put that as a bylaw change. We could have put it before town meeting. It could have got approved. We'd be waiting for the AG, and then it would be a law. That's absolutely true. And I think that's happened in Brookline.
It's happened in a few towns. Not a lot,
Has
but
it
a few. I believe Brookline is one of them, yes.
Yeah. And then we had another bylaw, which has impacted you guys, which was the black plastic
Yes.
container bylaw. What did you think of that, Lisa?
So
Forget the extra work.
no. That's not the issue. I'm gonna even jump one more.
Go ahead.
There was also discussion about a noise ordinance.
Oh, that was,
And I
we
think
couldn't.
That's where we were feisty.
No. But again,
In a nice way, Melissa, in a nice way.
Professional feisty.
I am not opposed to any ordinances. I think there's two things that always have to be considered in all of them. The last thing you want to do is create any kind of laws, ordinances, or anything else that cannot be followed through with, because that creates a potential logistical, monetary, and legal nightmare for the town. That's step one.
That's very similar to healthcare as well.
Correct.
Yes.
So you do have some caution there, especially with a smaller community like ours, and especially moving in to a more challenging economic time. And I think we all know that. We've seen the spending reports. We've seen the stock reports and everything else. This is not news. So when considering those things, I think it's unfortunate that not. When you consider the size of our town and the population of our town, which is just south of 20,000 people, we have the purest form of government available to our community in the form of town meeting, where people get to come down, see, hear, and vote on things they would like. For example, as was the black plastic bin for takeaway food. And excuse me, there was a motion to repeal the ban on lightweight plastic, single-use plastic bags that failed, so that the ban remains in place, and all of those other things. So I think the real question is making sure that when we get to town meeting, any bylaw can actually work for the community. I think that's the obligation any group, whether it's the Board of Health, whether it's a bylaw committee, whether it's the Board of Selectmen, to make sure that when we bring articles to town meeting, they can be done. We have the money, the resources, the time. That's exactly what I do with the CPC, the Community Preservation Act, is make sure that it's legal, it can be done, and we have the funding to do it.
Wait,
and then,
you on the CPC as well?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, we'll get onto that then.
And then so when you bring an article to town meeting, as long as it's properly, and then you let the people decide.
Sure.
I can make an argument, but right now in 10 seconds, both for and pro tobacco. Who am I to tell someone they can't smoke if they're over 21 and they want to? Well, I guess if you really want to, you can. You can go jumping in an icy lake too if you want to. It might not be advisable, for longevity of life, but a lot of things are not. McDonald's is not, recommended for longevity of life. Now I'll take the other side of the only reason that anyone lobbies for tobacco is to sell it and make money. When a convenience store loses a tobacco license because they violated the law or faces a suspension, all they're worried about is the bottom line of what money are they losing going out the door. They never talk about any of the other things. They all talk about, I'm going to lose too much, I'm going to lose too much. They will happily pay the fine. They are terrified of how long are they going to be prohibited from selling tobacco.
Is there
which
really
tells you
that much profit in tobacco?
Oh, yeah.
I have to assume so, but I think it's also the foot traffic of people coming in that a lot of people going in and out of convenience stores. It's to create the foot traffic. So it's not only the sale of tobacco, which it's over $10 a pack now.
Yeah.
But the milk or the bread or
And
the
you pick
whatever.
up your Gatorade when you do it.
Whatever you do.
go there for
Gatorade
it.
and smoking. There you
Yeah.
go.
So
Healthy living again.
Diet
Oh,
Coke.
I could go into even more than that. So again, we're all responsible for our own choices. So where's the situation where government should or should not step in? And I say to people, when was the last time you were at a town meeting? Let's go back to the noise ordinance. Do I totally see the value of people not having their lives impacted negatively by a particularly noisy neighbor or noisy some trade or hobby next door to them? Absolutely. I do see that. Your life shouldn't be torn apart. You should not be able to sleep and enjoy your own yard or neighborhood. Now I'll step over and take the other side. Who's to tell me I can't, do my chainsaw wood carving, in my backyard if I want to? Why can't I have a band over for my kids' party and everything else? And again, that's where town meeting sets in place guidance. I like to call them, rather than laws, and yes, they are bylaws, but guidance. Do it between these hours. Keep it to this level. No, you can't have an at-home nuclear reactor. But yeah,
Why
you
not?
can't. I know.
Come on.
Well, when people
You
say
let me have solar panels. I can't have a nuclear reactor?
Exactly. But we make fun of it tongue in cheek. At the same time, it's true because people will frequently, when at odds with the sanitation law or some other law, but we'll pick on the livestock. They're at odds with the livestock law. One of the first things people will say to me when I show up at their property to explain why they can't do what they're doing is, "Who are you to tell me what to do on my property? It's my property. I'll do what I want." And to an extent, they have some points. I said, but when your behavior on your property impacts the abutting properties around you, that's when you have to start thinking, well, there does have to be some limit and restriction. Kind of like I have the right to swing my arm, but that right stops at the end of my nose, that kind of thing. So there has to be a balance there. But I think that we in Massachusetts, as much as people like to say, oh, the Commonwealth is so challenging, it's so this and so that, and they are right, it is. At the same time, we enjoy a level of interaction and control with our lives and our governance and our communities that a lot of states don't, and that's something really.
A lot of countries.
A lot of countries. Now that you mention that, so I think it's a delicate balance, and my only advice to people would be is, please get involved, please care,
Sure.
Please pay attention, please vote, please go to town meeting. I know not everyone can all the time, but make the effort. Look at how many people made the effort because they felt so strongly about vocational education.
Yeah.
So people can do it, and I would say there's no
Still
such
only
thing.
2% of the registered voters in town showed up for that.
Yeah, that was hard for me to watch. That was hard for me to watch, and it's also hard for me to watch and I've watched this now for quite a few years. You can all blame Bill Cullity and Vince Cogliano, Chuck Twopence. Who else was still? Oh, John Walsh.
Are you related to the Cullity you've just...
Yes, I have. We'll get into that in a minute, though. But you can blame all of them because at 22 years old, fresh out of college, they all said, "Boy, have we got a job for you." And I said, "What now?" That I got involved with all this, and I've been at almost every town meeting. I think I was out of town for one town meeting that I didn't make it to. And you watch this happen over and over, that people come on an issue they particularly care about, and the minute their issue has gone by, they stand up and walk out. And I would love to send one message to people: you get the government you deserve.
For sure.
And
for sure.
that is so apropos. And even if you don't want to be an elected official like Melissa, and you're not, because it is intimidating. There's no doubt about it. It's intimidating. It is thankless. Everyone that you rule against or decide against will remember you forever, and everyone you help forgets the next day. And all of that's true.
I like that saying.
Well, but it's true. I've learned, trust me, I've learned this over the years. But your ability to be involved and be heard is unparalleled in a Massachusetts town versus most of the country, and as you pointed out, most of the world.
Yeah. No, the form of government in... So we've done several podcasts. You are going to be podcast 17. We've had Stephen, the moderator.
Dodge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Stephen.
I go to town meeting also.
We've had Stephen Dodge, and he was telling us that we need a quorum to start the town meeting, and it's as low as 150 people.
Yes.
However, you don't... If everybody walks out because the hot ticket subjects come in, and you've got 10 people left, those 10 people, unless one of them stands up and says, "Wait, do we still have a quorum?" the meeting continues.
You are correct. And not only that, even the challengeable quorum dropped. It used to be 150 through the whole meeting. So when I first got involved in town politics, it was 150, and it was challenged at a couple of town meetings, and it brought a couple of town meetings to a halt. There was one town meeting I remember that we did not get a quorum on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and then they had to give up and abandon the meeting because they could not get in a quorum at the meeting. Something else for people to think about is you walk out.
Delay. That's such a delay of action.
It's 10 grand a pop as well.
Correct.
You know that?
Correct.
Oh, I didn't know that part.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then on top of that, people forget there is the move to recall, the move to reconsider an article. So let's say you got what you wanted, yay, 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 and 200 of you go walking out of the room. The 50 people left can say, Mr. Moderator, I move to reconsider. And that is legal.
That's very interesting.
Now, if that happens after you left town meeting, you've got to go down to the town clerk's office with a whole bunch of petitioners, like 150 names. I forget. Please ask Andrea or Steve Dodge. They would know a lot more about this than I do. But you have to have a whole bunch of names signed to a list to bring that town meeting back, to go back and reconsider that. So that's just something for people to think about, too, when it comes to town meeting and town government.
But back to the facts are, we at town meeting and the elections that we'll have in May, we can control our lives, because who we elect can affect our drinking water, our roads, our infrastructure, all the
How
things
we spend
that can,
every single dime.
Correct. If we go every 4 years in November and elect in the national elections, is it really going to change our lives as much or impact our lives as much as local elections? And yet we show up for the national elections. We don't show up for the town elections, which I think it's a shame. But I hope that if we do more of this and more educating of the people, and more people like you, Lisa, saying, what the hell?
Well, it's all of the above. Now, I'm going to pick on you a little bit.
Go ahead.
I sense a little bit of an accent. Perhaps.
You didn't know?
Are you a natural-born U.S. citizen, sir, or do you have some experience with some other governments, some other places?
I do have experience. I
imagine you did.
So I lived in the UK until I was in my mid-30s, where I learned to speak English.
I'll tell you a funny story about speaking English later.
And I voted for Conservatives. My whole career was Margaret Thatcher, John Major. Oof. What do you mean, oof?
Oof. We're not
She brought down the wall. Don't forget that. It wasn't Reagan.
It wasn't Reagan?
Anyhow, I then went to France. I lived in France for a while, and it was a socialist government. And I got a little confused because I actually loved the French way of life, and I loved the French people, and I loved the way that they protect their culture. And they protect their family, and they keep. So the housing in France was suppressed. You could buy a chateau for, at the time, $250,000. It was everything was suppressed, but it was suppressed so that people can live a life.
Sure.
And it was during that time. I remember my mother called me and she said, "We just had an offer of £1 million for our house," which at the time was like 1.5 million. I said, "Mum, you've got 11 grandchildren and 4 children. That's 15 million pounds worth of wealth you have to generate for all of your children and grandchildren to have what you have."
Oh, that's a good way to think of it.
And she looked at she was on the phone. She didn't look at me. She said, "Why do you have to spoil my news?"
There's always FaceTime.
Yeah. Well, we have that now.
Yes.
And so that introduced me to, I don't know, I don't want to say I became a socialist. I didn't become a socialist because I definitely got the receipts on socialism. It's a bad thing. It doesn't work. And we shouldn't even be thinking about it. But then I come to America and there really is only 2 parties and they're really not much to separate them. And so I have friends who think I'm wonderful for wanting socialized medicine, but I've lived with socialized medicine. I grew up with socialized medicine. I believe, as a conservative, that socialized medicine it's necessary.
Around here,
you're
that is
such
not
a left-wing liberal. I said, what are you talking about? And so, yes, I do have an accent. It's a real one. It's an English one. But I'm so happy to be living here. This is the best country I have lived in. I've visited lots of countries with my job. You heard me talk about China. This is the most amazing country on earth. It has the most amazing people in it, and I'm not just saying it because it's my home now. My parents, who are in their 90s and 80s, they still visit, and they always leave in tears, saying, "This is the England I grew up in." Mm-hmm. So that's changed. We haven't. I love it.
Interesting, because we had that conversation before.
Wait a second. You pointed it out. What were you going to say?
Full disclosure: my aunt, uncle, and two of my very close cousins are both dual citizenships. They are U.S. and U.K. citizens, and they actually live in England, and they've lived in England all my life. And so
do they say what I say?
Actually, no. My aunt and uncle differ from you. They don't like socialized medicine because they didn't like waiting for certain procedures and things, and they would spend out of pocket to buy additional services or more rapid services privately.
Right. Okay. So that's interesting. So I do understand because I did the same. Mm-hmm. So when I was working there, because of the position I had, it was they call it a perk. Mm-hmm. So I had the perk of a company car and
additional
coverage. We call it FSA here, but you had additional monies insurance, as they call it, moneyed insurance, or money you could buy with.
I was seeing the same. So privately, I could only see the doctor between the early hours before 9 a.m. in the morning and in after hours after 5 p.m. It was the same doctor that I would have had. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they create it's an emergency list. So if you were in a car crash, you would be seen immediately. There's no line. There's no queue, as we say in England. If you severed your arm, you would not be in line. Mm-hmm. If you had cancer, you would not be in line. Mm-hmm. If you had some surgery that was semi-elective, so you needed a hip replacement, the line is 6 months. But if you go private and your insurance company's paying for it, we can get you in tomorrow. And so,
that's I'm sorry, I wasn't speaking. I was just making faces. I apologize,
I saw your face.
I know. That's interesting.
Yeah, so the
you
insurance...
You can cut in line if you have money.
It's not if you have money, if you have the insurance.
No, you literally pay a premium.
But it's money.
Yeah, it's money.
Of course it's money. But, how much are you paying now?
Yeah.
You're
how much
paying
do
now.
I pay?
See, that's what everyone thinks.
You are paying for insurance.
We just label
now.
it differently. Yes. Everyone acts like this is all very different, and it isn't.
It isn't
we
at
just
all.
pay for it differently.
Right.
Correct.
Everyone's like, no, my health care is free. No, it isn't.
You pay
either
in taxes,
you or your spouse has an amount of money taken out of their paycheck all the time that pays. So it's not free. None of it's free. People think that the only thing they're paying for health care. It's not free in England.
It's higher taxes.
Exactly. The point is no one does a job for free. Not the guy picking up your garbage.
Correct.
Not the person operating on your hip. Not the person mowing your lawn. Not the person paving your road. The funny thing is, it's across all these countries. So I have these conversations with my relatives that live in. I actually have other relatives that live in Sweden. Nothing is free. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it's just a matter of how the revenue is raised and spent to do it. And everyone's like, I want no taxes. You know, you'll hear that a lot in the U.S., which is interesting. And I'm like, great, no taxes, love it. Who's educating your kid? You know, and people are like, oh, well, that's this, and I do private school or I do this and that. And I said, well, you know, in Pembroke, what is it, 65-70% of our taxes go to the public education system? Something like that?
Of our budget, for sure.
Yeah. So I have zero children.
Taxes, but
I have zero children of my own. Can I get my 70% back, please?
Yeah, but we've got a civic responsibility to educate.
And that's where we come into, you know, the challenge in all the different countries is what do you consider a civic obligation? Mm-hmm. We all drive on roads. Without roads, we don't get anywhere. Without any maintenance, they fall apart. And then what do? Okay, that's a problem. Police and fire. We all have an obligation to stay safe. So what we feel like we want to spend on any of those things, that's up for debate. But basically, you need these. And as you pointed out, education. There is an obligation to educate. Mm-hmm. If you do not educate your society is going to backslide and probably have a whole lot of problems. So the thing is where do you draw these lines and how do you define these definitions? And again, I go back to that's why I think town meeting is so cool. You literally have a vote and a voice on all of that.
For sure.
And that's so rare. That's so rare.
Every single line item on that budget is voted on or can be adjusted in that town meeting.
Yep.
We tend to skip the big budget items, and we argue about the $6,000 for the gutters on the historic building. I mean, what the hell was that?
That is true.
That is interesting. And yes, throughout. So if you asked me, I hate saying this out loud, for over 30 years of experience in our municipal government here in Pembroke, that it's always been that way. And I find that very interesting, that some of the biggest ticket items are not even blinked at, and some of the most minuscule items that in my opinion really don't deserve the attention they get are like torn apart and become very, very visceral. And I always thought that was very interesting.
I think there's a lot of politic backchecking going on in the background. People have special interests, and they know who to speak to, and they know how to rile up and get the pitchforks, and they
absolutely.
Oh, that's true.
Leave your gun and horse at the door as you come in.
Lobbyists on the lowest of levels.
Yeah.
Lobbyists in the most pure of, I'm going to lobby at my own personal town meeting. I'm going to get the word out on this article because it affects my family, and I'm going to rile up my base, my group of people, and I'm going to lobby for that item.
Excellent. We're flying here. This is fantastic. We're supposed to be a 30-minute podcast when we're at
whatever.
40. Is it?
I'm not going anywhere. I'm done. You finish out my day, Fraser. Unless this. Okay, wait a minute. The engineer keeps looking at us funny. Does that mean I need to shut up? I'll shut up.
I think he's fine. He has his lunch soon.
Okay.
No, he's not. We're not getting a rise. So let's bring it back to. You talked about, I can tick off all the things I wanted to ask you about, actually. Give me, I was going to ask you if there are any, you do a lot of inspections.
Yes. Number one is home sanitation septic systems. That is a lion's share of our work because none of that is being done by the state government. That is all 100% in the hands of the locals. Whereas some housing and some public health work is done at the state level through clinics and through other organizations. For example, vaccinations. People don't understand this, but a lot of underfunded or uninsured people can get free vaccinations at, say, CVS and stuff. So there are branches of services being offered by things larger than the town of Pembroke. Community sanitation is not one of them. Every housing inspection and every sanitation inspection for septic systems is done right here.
How do you call a housing inspection? What would that be all about? I understand the restaurants, and we'll come on to that.
The restaurants are very simple. There are standards. All restaurants have to adhere to them. Very cut and dry. But believe it or not, your home, my home, her home, everyone's home has the same sanitation. There's sanitation levels that need to be maintained. They're clearly outlined in the Massachusetts Housing Sanitation Code.
But what would call you in? A neighbor complaining or?
Generally, most of the time, it's either a tenant in a rental situation.
Got it.
That will call me in. Or unfortunately, it can be very hard when this happens, but the police, the fire department, or the council on aging. Sometimes a visiting nurse. And someone, for one reason or another, has fallen into a situation where they're no longer safe in their own environment. And
like hoarding environments?
Hoarding is just one of them, but general lack of sanitation, lack of maintenance to the home.
I would imagine that's very sad, actually.
It's
is very difficult and very sad.
The worst part of my job, hands down, is when I'm on scene. Some people, it's for a mental reason that they've come across the challenge, and for others, it's the economic, and both are some of the hardest things. Some of the hardest things you'll ever see.
Yeah,
some of the hardest things you'll ever see.
I can quite imagine. Okay, so let's brighten this up a little bit.
Yes.
What are some of the funniest things you've seen in an inspection, or something an unbelievable? Let's focus on businesses rather than individuals.
Some parts of what I do are absolutely a blast. I don't think people know or give enough credit. Now I'm going to hit the chamber up for how many amazing business people we have in this community. Look at the fun and entertaining environment that Dave Barry has created at Town Tree House and Tavern. Great meal, great prices. You go and you have fun. Balancing really well the protection of the environment around his establishment, from the sanitation standpoint, both within his building and then outside, being right there on the pond, but then creating an environment where you really can immerse yourself in great food, great entertainment, and outdoor activities. look at, Paul Dish and what used to be Dish's Tavern. I think he calls himself, Route 53 Tavern now?
Yes.
Creating, again, a really homey, earthy environment to go and have a fantastic meal at. We have local business people that are
He
just
brought the
fantastic.
Fairview.
Yeah, well,
Didn't he?
pretty much he brought Fairview to Pembroke.
Yeah.
And then, all of our other Dairy Twist, you stand out. So yes, I will say
love
one of my
Dairy
favorite days, is definitely opening Dairy Twist for the season. That is actually a day I'm very excited.
And is
to
that
get to work.
something, as the Board of Health, you're there to...
Correct. Yeah.
Terrific.
And the reason, again, we have food inspectors, but usually when it's a pre-opening inspection, because they can't be, they're contractors, so they set their own schedule. So when it's a scheduled opening, for example, special events, the farmers market, pop-up markets, opening of seasonals like Dairy Twist, I generally end up with those, as well as any emergency complaints or non-emergency but time sensitive things that I'll deploy, because I'm the only full-time person, so to speak, on call.
I am aware, I used to work in retail, grocery. It was actually Shaw's and Star Market. They were owned by the same
Company.
It was Sainsbury's in the UK, and I worked for them. And I know that ice cream was the worst. Meat, you can get, even if meat goes off, you're safe to eat it. But ice cream, if that defrosts for half an hour,
Ruined.
it's completely ruined, and it becomes so toxic. It's unbelievable.
I'm learning a lot.
It can turn really quickly on you.
Yeah.
I mean, now...
And then it refreezes. If someone then refreezes
and you don't know.
And you don't know it?
And you won't know it.
I'm a bugger. When I open if I see crystals on this is a public safety announcement here. Yeah. If I see crystals, I know it's defrosted.
Yep.
Not necessarily enough to make it toxic, but I know it's defrosted and I don't eat it.
Yeah, dented cans is another one.
But I will eat 1,000-year-old eggs.
I know. But they're not really, see, that's a misnomer though. They're not really 1,000-year-old eggs.
No. But do you know if it's horse urine or not?
No. Okay. So now we're going to get science geeky again.
Okay. I know it's safe.
Urine does not present, and I'll defer to the nurse.
That's true.
It's actually there's very little about urine that'll hurt you, and it's not the way to pass disease. I know. I hate saying this, especially in this part.
I know, that's a different podcast.
Human solid waste, human mucus, human vomit.
Now we're talking nursing.
Now we're talking real nursing, and I can say this with a nurse.
Wait, anybody eating their dinner right now?
Yeah, stop eating your dinner immediately. Those are the things that will carry the pathogens, the viruses, and the bacteria that'll hurt you. Urine is very innocuous. It will really not hurt you.
But that's also why you wash your hands.
Yes.
Well, but I also read somewhere that they used to use it as a sterilizer.
Oh, they used to use it as a sterilizer. It was used in tanning. It was used in leather tanning up until the 40s and the 50s.
For a second, I thought you meant human tanning, and I was concerned. I'm like, what kind of tanning?
Leather tanning.
I've got this white pasty look about me for a reason.
This is a no urine zone. Wow, I'm so sorry to all the folks listening at home. It does get worse from here. Oh, here's a little, you said, what do people find interesting? And they said, how do you stand, being around the septic industry and the smells and everything else? And yes, it's difficult, but you do get used to it, kind of thing. Funny story. A human septic system, we'll call it, is unpleasant, and you don't want to sit there and, breathe it in and everything else. And yes, it's true. When you can smell something, you are taking that something into your body. Yeah. Sorry, folks. But that's bad. Nothing will beat the smell that will knock you off of your feet of the smell of a grease trap.
Yeah. Oh, I know that.
Grease traps are, I will never forget the first time I smelled one. I was on site for a backup and it was being pumped. And I'm like, holy, I've never smelled a tank like that. Mm. And then I realized what it was. And then I realized why, because you literally have rotting food.
Yeah, I was going to say it's meat.
And the grease and the meat and everything else in there. And that 10 times worse. That I did have to take a step back that day. That was literally roiling my stomach. That is a real rough one.
I have taken a swift.
Yeah.
No, what do you call it?
A whiff.
Sniff.
A whiff. A sniff. A whiff.
Whatever. And it's pretty.
I do not advise.
Hard work.
I do not advise, and that's why those are often handled at restaurants overnight for obvious reasons.
Right. I actually learned something having my septic pumped the other day. I didn't smell it for the first time ever. And
Some of the trucks have filters.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look at her.
Sorry.
I didn't realize. No, so he said to me that the older trucks would mix their exhaust with, and that's what you could smell. It wasn't the pumping; it was the engine running. And my guy had a new truck, and he didn't have that filter on. And you're absolutely right.
And literally, that is, again, I don't get this. Going to sound awful. It's when certain trucks, especially the older ones, pump, you are aerosolizing some of the material.
Yes.
That is part of the process of the sucking out.
Yeah, I think that's the point he was trying to make.
And when you can create a pumping system that is watertight, like a lot of the newer trucks have, not only do they have an exhaust filter, but then, because remember, they're at some point in time, as you draw a substance into a closed-in container like a pumping truck, the air exactly science coming at you, folks. And so you can filter that air, but to your point, there's also a pumping system which can be a much lower air, much lower agitation, or much less air involved in, and then you get less aerosolization of
aerosolization.
Those things.
Yes. I learned a lot about that during COVID, what aerosol is.
Well, tell me about that. And you know, you guys are like, oh, you know all this stuff, you all know this stuff. COVID was a great educator.
Oh, I don't know any of this stuff. This is fantastic.
No. But you said to me, and I'm like, when COVID hit, I suddenly had more material thrown at me at such a high level. That was a challenge. And I'm glad you said that as a nurse, because here I am, a health agent, and I have, a good working knowledge of medicine and diseases and everything else, but nothing like a medical education. And we're talking about aerosolizations and parts per million and particulates and droplets and what kind of droplets.
We were learning something new every day.
It blew my mind.
Because at first we didn't know, and then we would be giving people breathing treatments, and we were putting plastic up with PVC piping over them so people could have their breathing treatments, but not sharing all their aerosolized COVID with the entire hospital or the nurse or whomever. And those, once they're aerosolized, they do fall. It's actually COVID, they've learned. It was pretty heavy. But at the time, we didn't know how long it took. So you'd give someone a breathing treatment, and another person couldn't go in the room for, I think at the time it was 30 minutes because it would still be in the air. COVID was a lot of learning.
So I did a fair bit of work with various organizations during COVID, because I was one of the few people that had boots on the ground in China able to inspect PPE. Yeah, you needed to inspect it though.
I don't. It's not that. You absolutely need to do that work, but my word, that had to have been
stressful.
I heard horror stories. So I had my inspector go to pick up some PPE, and she said she had to fight with other people who were trying to jump the line, because the factories were making as much as they could, and they were. And she said there was one vehicle there, and these people, they were just taking anything. They didn't even know what they were doing, and just throwing it onto the back of the truck, just so that they could have a full truck to get it shipped. There are all sorts of things going on there.
We had issues locally about getting safe PPE.
Availability
of PPE.
Absolutely. Huge issues.
We were
challenges.
Reusing masks and having them UV cleaned when we weren't able to, and having to reuse them.
So in 2007, I tried to introduce a UV sterilizer to the American market, and no one wanted to buy it. Everyone was saying,
now someone has one just for their toothbrushes.
I know.
And their phone.
I know. But in 2007, not the American public, but the people that sit between the American public and, so Walmart, for instance, Walmart said, how do we know it's actually working? I said, well, I've got this report from this company in Columbus, Ohio that did all this testing. Yeah, but you can't really, like with bleach, you can smell bleach. Really? Is that this is Walmart. Is that your argument? You can smell bleach.
But you've just hit on something very important, and this was highlighted in COVID, and it's something that comes up in government all the time. There is knowledge, there is testing, there is data, and we put it out there. And as I would say often during COVID, there's always going to be anomalies and outliers. But some people use examples of anomalies and outliers to substantiate a viewpoint. And as I said often during COVID,
Tylenol causes autism.
Well,
for instance,
that's just one example. But then again, when you look at this, first of all, everyone's got to make their own choice. I'm a big believer in make your own choices. But a lot of times during COVID, I would be quoted as saying, okay, I hear everything you're saying. You're right. These masks, even N95, cannot stop a single virus. Fair enough. They are too small. I'm going to say most of the viruses being expelled by most of the people are not single viruses. They're not a single unit coming out of someone's mouth. They're probably several thousand units contained in a droplet of your spit, your sneeze, your mucus, your anything else. So I'm going to play the odds that I am going to statistically reduce the amount of viruses coming at me by wearing a mask and by not being around people without masks. And yes, does that mean a single virus couldn't float through the air and somehow get to me? Of course it could. But I'm going to say statistically, I have reduced the total volume of viruses coming at me by probably 80%.
Yeah.
And I'll take those odds. Now, and everyone's like, well, but it doesn't. And I said, yes, but if you're now at Las Vegas and you have $1,000 sitting in front of you and you have a roulette wheel and 70% of the spots are black and 25% are white and 5% are green, where are you going to take and bet that $1,000 right now, and the odds are the same? Well, yeah. I mean, common sense says you're going to place that on black. Now, some people like to look at things through a different lens and say, no, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, or I heard this information from this source or that information. That's fine. That's your own personal choice. You make your choices based on the information you're taking in. But from the medical science, and medical science, and I'm sure the nice nurse sitting here is going to say the same thing, there's no absolutes. There are literally treatments given to one person or a group of people that work great, and then there'll be one outlier person that a certain medication, a certain treatment, or certain something doesn't work. And yes, there's always statistically that possibility. But when making decisions for myself, I'm always going to go, I'm going to play the best odds that I can.
Yeah, a lot of it is about risk management, right?
Sure.
It's all about risk management, decreasing your risk of illness. And I think that's a lot of what we do in the Board of Health, too, is nothing's going to be absolute, right? Whether it comes to everyone loving ADUs or
hating ADUs.
Or thinking it's
a blight or over density. We'll call it over density of a square piece of land.
But you have to go with the risk management point of view.
So I'm going to join the conversation by sharing with you. Again, I've talked about it. I was going to China 4 or 5 times a year, and I actually got bird flu during the bird flu pandemic in, I think it was 2015 or 2016.
Right about then, yeah.
Around about then. Every time I went to, after that, there was the swine flu and the bird flu. It was all in Asia. But I got used to seeing everybody in masks. From a long time ago. I mean, almost 20 years ago, people were wearing masks in China. Or in Asia. I don't want to say China.
But Asia as a whole. And
Asia as a whole.
You even see that translating
in
reports.
It.
They normalized it very much so.
But what they were normalizing was not... So you mentioned about, I want to protect myself from catching this. That is not why you wear the mask in Asia.
Correct.
You wear the mask in Asia to stop spreading what you've got.
Yes.
So if you have a cold, just a common cold, in Asia, everyone was wearing a mask immediately as part of a civic mindedness. I have a cold.
I agree with that, too.
I am not going to spread my cold. And that's why they contained it better.
And I have seen that increase, though, since COVID.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are more concerned about, they realize that if someone who's 70 just gets your flu, it could be life altering.
I think hand washing has become a thing now.
We're seeing better behavior. Yeah. Well,
that is the number one.
You say become a thing, but that's true.
Yeah.
I see much more attention being paid in public venues, in bathrooms, to hand washing and soap.
Yes, soap.
I saw a lot of people just rinsing their hands before. I saw a lot of people doing nothing before. And now you see everyone's looking for the soap. And if they can't find the soap, they'll stick to another sink to find the soap.
Yeah.
And use the soap and water, which is super important.
And here's the thing. We always, when you know better, you do better, right? So you just take those little bits of information and experience and do better the next time. And I think that wearing masks, you learned, I can help my neighbor. And so you are going to see it a little bit more.
Longest podcast in history.
Oh, really?
Not in history. Not in history.
No,
I listened to
us.
them. Okay, for you.
Okay.
Fine.
So, look, what I don't want to do, this has been a fantastic conversation, and it actually confirms
But you're never letting us come back.
what I imagined. Oh, no, we've got to talk about all sorts of stuff. I don't want to end it, though, until you've both had an opportunity to discuss any. Was there anything that you came here with I must say this to the residents. Melissa, I'll start with you. Is there anything you feel that you should have said, but you haven't had an opportunity to say because Lisa's done all the talking, or?
Accurate.
No, I like to listen to her because she has a lot of knowledge, and I've learned a lot from her and other members of the board
welcome.
as well. Yeah, thank you. But I think the biggest thing that we talked about that I would like to touch down on is breaking down silos. I think out of all of this, we talked about anytime people work in silos, we can end up being ineffective and inefficient. And since we do have such a strong democracy or democratic process in our small New England towns that a lot of people think are, weird, that 200 people make the decision for 20,000.
Yep.
So yes, get more involved and don't just work in your own silos. Reach out to the other boards, to the other communities, if you think they could be helpful in this process or maybe a stakeholder in the process. And I think that I've learned since being in this role how many things, if you have an issue that you feel is coming, bring it to someone.
Yeah.
Bring it to someone on a board.
Yeah.
They will discuss it. Maybe they can't take action, but just breaking down those silos and that open communication is and collaboration amongst the boards. So it's great to hear that Lisa has very good success collaborating amongst the town employees of the town of Pembroke. I think that's excellent. I would love to see a little bit more of that with the boards. But
good point.
Yeah, that's all.
Very good point.
Just working together and saying, "Oh, that's not my purview.
Yeah.
That's the building." Well, let's talk with the people on the building committee.
Sure.
Or whatever it is.
Fair point.
Yeah,
Lisa?
That's all.
The first one is get involved.
Yeah.
Be involved. You get the government you deserve. So there's nothing that is too small or too big to care about, to be passionate about, and to be involved in. And I share your opinion that this is a fantastic country that is loaded with freedoms, and I love to see people using all their freedoms. Maybe they're going to use freedoms I don't elect to use, but that's okay. So the last part of that I would say is use your freedoms, enjoy your community. But the caveat I will give to that is don't do so with a reckless disregard for others around you, whether they be your neighbors, someone else with a different viewpoint. If you have a passion article or a passion point, do not forget there are people on the other side of that point, whether it be an economical challenge, a physical limitation, a monetarily limitation. Always keep in mind that whatever, thing that you believe is an absolute thing for you is probably going to be a challenge for someone else, so don't lose sight of that.
Excellent point. I feel like we've saved the best to last, but there you go. That is all we have time for today, though. So thank you to our guests, Lisa and Melissa, for participating, and thank you to the listeners for tuning in. This podcast will be available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube with additional links on our Facebook page. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce. And if you're interested in becoming a member of the Chamber, please go to the Pembroke Chamber of Commerce website, pembrokechamber.org. Lisa, Melissa, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Fraser.